Hi guys, I'm in my business attire today.
You're in business.
That's right. Okay, well let's start. Let's hope this works. So today's presentation is about managing risk, how it applies to businesses, and in my pastime that I like to do, skydiving. Has anyone in here been skydiving before? One person. That's it. Okay, so we're going to have a sign-up sheet after this, so everyone can sign up and we can book you in. Skydiving is what some people consider one of the most riskiest, death-defying sports that there is. Taking risk is obviously a part of all of our lives, and it definitely applies to skydivers. But it also applies to business owners, especially in today's business climate, that we have a lot of risks, legal risks, insurance risks all over the place. And we'll kind of cover different types of risks and the similarities between skydiving and business. So skydiving and business, similarities, making the link here. So both have some inherent risk in them, in owning and starting a business and running a business, and in skydiving. No matter how protected you are or you think you are, there is some risk of loss. They both need you to invest your time and effort in improving and making a good result and having a successful venture. They require knowledge of your field. They require ongoing education and training to be successful, and they're enjoyable. And the risk is usually less than the reward when you do it correctly. So it can also be scary and overwhelming for skydiving and starting and running a business at times. But you can enjoy the ride with a thankful and servant heart. So skydivers are often thought of as crazy risk takers, right? But they're actually the most risk-aware people that live, because there is such a risk on the line. So there's a simple 3-step process that we take in managing the risks that there are, and this applies not only to what we do as skydivers, but also what we do as business owners. And my business is a real estate brokerage, and we also do property management. In that field of property management, it's basically managing risk. Like 99% of what we do is managing risk for our property owners. So the first part of the 3 simple step process to managing risk is identify the risks that are in your activity, in your business. The second one is, now you've identified them, how to avoid those risks, how to avoid them completely. And the third one is how to control non-avoidable risks on a day-to-day basis. So let's just go to the Word and see what the Bible says about risk. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. John 14:27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not be afraid. And Philippians 4:6-7, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And with the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So let's go to the first step, which is identify. So firstly, as business owners, if you haven't done this already, I highly recommend that you follow this. It's not going to take up a huge amount of your time, and it really is going to save you further down the line. So firstly, write down a list of all the different types of risks that are associated with your specific business. Now, I'm gonna do some examples that cover a lot of our businesses, but your specific field, everyone's field has some special types that apply. So we're gonna compare skydiving and business. Skydiving, well, obviously, that's a pretty big one. Can you see over there? So personal injury or death is pretty much the risk that we take when skydiving. So you can't get too more risky than that. But our businesses, what kind of risks? Well, we have physical theft. People can come in and steal, whether it be money or actual property. We have digital theft, which is a big one nowadays. People can actually steal online, not only funds, but also information that you have stored online. You can have property damage to your business, to your car, to things that your business owns. There's also personal injury or death that's involved, especially if you have a physical location. Or if you are a contractor, there's certainly dealing with different situations like the landscapers right here, as you run them. Destruction of reputation, that's things like either word of mouth, maybe your employee messes up and says something they're not supposed to, or maybe you do a job for someone and they're not happy with the results. They go and spread to everybody they know about how bad your company is, and also Google reviews as well. If you get bad Google or Yelp reviews online, that can damage your reputation. Discrimination violations is another risk that we have to identify. That can be, in my field, fair housing. There's a huge list of things that we have to be careful of, and also the ADA, which is not discriminating against people with handicaps, and general lawsuits as well, which is a big one. So now we've identified the risks. Now we can actually help avoid them. And of course, we always say, as Christians, we start off with prayer. We need to pray about everything before we do it. Every single venture, every decision, every day, constantly praying about our business, our employees, and everything, so that we have the wisdom to make smart choices. So, avoiding risk, skydiving a business. Well, skydiving, see on my back we have a parachute, and this is the number one thing that avoids the risk of personal injury or death. So this is a parachute. The first skydive was back in, I believe it was 1919, by a lady who survived with no injuries, surprisingly enough, after jumping off of, I think, a fixed building with the first parachute. And then through the 60s and 70s, the sport of skydiving really grew rapidly. It hasn't been until the last couple of decades that it's really got more popular. And that's with the advent of new technologies which make it a lot safer to skydive. So if you look at the actual statistics of skydiving, it's not as risk-worthy as people think it is. The ratios are that it's actually safer to take a skydive than it is to drive a car, because in a car you have more of a chance, more of a percentage of an accident involving in death than you do in skydiving. Now, of course, the more you skydive, the chances go up a little bit more, but it's still pretty safe. So we have a parachute that helps us avoid risks. Right here, I'm actually wearing 2 parachutes right now. So that's one of the new technologies. We have a reserve parachute in the top, and then my main parachute canopy in the bottom. And this is how we deploy. We pull that. We have an altimeter. An altimeter right here tells us how high up we go. So for every number on this dial is 1,000 feet. Now when we skydive, we usually go up to about 14,000 feet is usually, so it will spin all the way down to the 12 and then up to the 2, so that's 14. And as we jump out of the plane, this will rapidly start going down, and we have to look at it constantly, be glancing at it constantly, so that we know when we get down to about 5,000, 6,000, that's when we wave off and deploy safely. We have goggles, and these goggles allow us to actually see, because when you're skydiving, you're traveling at about 120 miles an hour in the wind. So imagine if you, in your car on a straight road, and you just floor it up to 120 miles an hour, stick your body out of the window, that would be what it feels like. It's just a big rush of wind. So the goggles help us see, and then our helmet, just in case we crash. No, I'm just kidding. This wouldn't help you at all if you crashed at 120 miles an hour. The helmet is actually twofold. It helps give us some noise protection, because it's very noisy out there, so that helps. But the main thing is also, if you're skydiving with other skydivers, which you usually are, because you usually go up in a plane with multiple people, when you're jumping out, you're usually far enough away from each other to be perfectly safe. But this is just another way that if you get too close to another skydiver, it does give you some impact protection in case if you bump into them by accident. So the other way we can avoid risk, not only using this equipment that we have, is also safety training. We're certified instructors. So before you go on a skydive, they don't just take you up in a plane and push you out. If you're going for the first time, you go with an instructor that usually has thousands of jumps under their belt. So they know what they're doing. They don't want to die either, and it's pretty safe. They give you all the instruction and everything that you need. And if you decide to get more into the sport, like I decided to, then you have to go through courses and training to learn all of the safety procedures. Which leads us to the USPA. So the United States Parachute Association is a world-leading organization, and they developed a manual full of policies and procedures that skydivers and every drop zone that people jump at have to follow to maintain safety protocols. As well as other skydivers. There are other skydivers constantly that you're flying with. I'm just a newbie, so I have about 20 jumps under my belt right now. But when I get up to the plane, there are other skydivers just naturally, even though they don't have to, they're constantly just checking me over, making sure I put my equipment on correctly, I don't have anything hanging out that's not supposed to be hanging out, and that I'm wearing the right equipment. So it helps to be around your peers that are there to look out for you. And then with skydiving, there are multiple license levels. So in order to do certain things and jump at certain locations or at certain times of the day and do certain tricks in the air if you want to get advanced, there are license levels that you have to reach and attain, like courses, to be able to do those things. So business. What kind of ways can we avoid risks pertaining to our business? Well, there's software that we can use to help organize our business and keep us on track and make sure we don't forget about certain clients or payables and things like that. There's digital backup services that we can use. I know in our business we have everything backed up to Google. We use Google for Business with Google Drive. It stores basically everything. We went paperless last year, so it stores every single piece of paper that we have on Google Drive. So we can, if our office burned down tomorrow, we would be up and running. It wouldn't affect us. We'd just pull out a laptop and we can access everything anywhere we are. And then in addition to that, we also pay for a backup service as well. Carbonite is who we use. And every day, at the end of the day, they do a full backup of my computer, which is like our main one in the office. So that's just a second backup service that we use, just in case something happens to Google Drive. Then we have that option as well. You can use locks and secure document storage for important documents and your physical locations, equipment that you have. Securely lock them up. That's another way to avoid the risk of theft. Contracts and disclosures is one that we should all be using, no matter what kind of business that we run. We have to make sure that we have the correct contracts with the correct, including the correct clauses and disclosures to help protect our interests. And then professional training, education, just like skydiving. You have to be educated in your field to be successful and to continue to grow as well. So whatever kind of training is in your field, look into it. Just keep growing in that. Don't settle. Be humble and constantly be learning new things. And physical signage. Physical signage can be another way we can avoid risks. I know with restaurants you have clean hand signs. There's ADA signs that we are required to have. There's certain things that if you have CCTV in your office, you're required to have premises is being monitored by cameras. So signage is another way we can avoid those potential problems if you don't have them. And then policies and procedures. So if you are a small business, you may think that, oh, why do I need to have written policies and procedures? Well, if you want to grow, then you do, because anytime you employ someone, you can't just expect them to automatically know what you expect out of them and your company. So a written set of policies and procedures, even if you start off with some couple of pages and go from there into whole employee manuals or policies and procedure manuals, at least having something down in writing shows those people that the company's goals and the level of expectation that you expect them to provide your company and also your clients and your customers. And then related organizations. So again, having peers, having business peers that are in your same field and joining any organizations that apply to your field of business is very helpful. So we have realtor organizations that we belong to. Now with Facebook, there's just hundreds of different groups that realtors, the Orlando Realtor has a mastermind group, so all the realtors are on there, say, oh, does anyone know of any contractor for this, or I'm having an issue with this, and we all pitch in and help each other. And the same thing with our management side, we have groups that we belong to. And then we also have organizations like the National Association of Realtors that we belong to that are constantly fighting in government to help people with home ownership. They are constantly trying to advocate on behalf of homeowners to keep property tax exemptions like homestead exemptions and also and other tax exemptions like that to make home ownership affordable. And then our property management side, we belong to the National Association of Residential Property Managers, and they provide courses and our peers help us as well. So that all of that stuff can help you avoid risks. And the idea is also that we make sure we take calculated risks. So when we go out skydiving, we are not just jumping on the plane and flying out and just hoping for the best. We make sure that we are looking at all of our equipment, that we're looking at the plane, that we're looking at everything. We're looking at the weather to make sure that the weather is in prime conditions, and we're making sure that our risk is as low as possible, so that when we step out, it's a calculated risk, and we can have success. So Ecclesiastes 11:1-6 gives us a sample of a calculated risk. Ship your grain across the sea. After many days you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures. Yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. If clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where it falls, there it will lie. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in the mother's womb, so you could not understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle. For you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. Amen. And what this is essentially saying is that you don't know what God's will is. You can pray, you can be in the Word, and you can look for direction. But God has an ultimate plan for every one of our lives, and what you need to do is you definitely need to pray. You need to identify your risks and everything. But in this example is basically saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Take your calculated risk by spreading your risk around to different ventures. So, after we've identified risk, after we've avoided some of the risk completely, now there's going to be a lot of risk that is unavoidable. It's just part of doing business, part of skydiving, but we can help control them. So, of course, you start with prayer every day, praying about your business, praying about your decisions. So in skydiving, how do we control risk? Well, we have to check and maintain our equipment. So it's great that we're wearing a parachute, but what if we don't set it up correctly? There's a couple of things I have here. I have on the back, I have an automatic activation device right here. That automatic activation device is another safety equipment that's on the parachute. If I'm free falling and I don't check my altimeter, and I don't pull at the right time, and I'm still traveling very fast, at a certain altitude, at a certain speed, it will automatically cut the cord automatically for me. There's a little firework that will go off and will cut that cord so I don't have to pull. It will just pull it for me. Now, there's several reasons for that. One, it could be that maybe you got in an accident in the sky and you're free falling, you're unconscious or something like that, or it could be you're not paying attention for some reason why you would do that. But there's multiple reasons. So that is another safety feature that's put in there, and we have to make sure that's turned on because it's not automatic. Before each skydive, we have to pull out our parachute. We have to look at our altimeter, make sure it's set to 0. We have to check all of our parachute, make sure all of our rings are aligned correctly, that there's no frayed cords, and that we've got our AAD turned on, that our pilot chute is right there, that our little hacky sack is ready to go to pull out, that all of our buckles are aligned and put on correctly, everything's tight, and all of our equipment is ready to go. And on and included. You've got your goggles right there ready to go on in the plane. You have your helmet ready to go on. It fits. The buckle actually works. Then we practice our emergency procedures. So in an emergency, after our training, we know that we have to have a certain set of procedures just in case it goes wrong. So for example, if we are free falling and it's time to pull, and we wave off and we pull, and we're arching and we're pulling, we're falling safely, and that parachute is going to fly off our back and it's going to deploy and it's going to start opening above us, and we have to look to make sure that it's opening correctly. We have to make sure that the lines that are going up, the risers, are all in the right place, that there's none that are over the parachute. That would be a problem. We've got to make sure that the parachute is fully open, that it's like a rectangle, or that it's square, that it has corners, that it's not crumpled up on the edges. We have to make sure that our slider, there's a little slider that comes down our riser lines, that fully comes down so that we know that it's deployed correctly. And then we also, as soon as that is deployed, we pull our steering toggles out and we pull them down and we start to steer left and right, and then we brake. And we make sure that that canopy is steerable. So we have the four S's, they call them. Those are the quick checks that you have to do within about 5 seconds of that parachute deploying. And they make sure that you are, that it's so ingrained into you that you can do it very quickly and automatic. And the more that you skydive, the quicker that you will that you'll be to do that. Now, if that doesn't happen like that, and something happens where we have lines over, or it's not deploying, or something gets twisted up, then in our training we're fully aware of what to do, so that we pre-plan for that, for emergency situations. So there's different emergency procedures depending on the type of emergency that you have. I think I'll leave that open. So as far as our emergency procedures go, there are certain checks. If it's a minor issue, we can pull brakes and we can pump them and see if the parachute deploys. If it's still not deploying, there's a couple of things that can happen. We can either have a low-speed emergency, or we can have a high-speed emergency. A low-speed emergency is if the parachute is partially deployed and we're falling maybe about half speed, or maybe about 30 to 40 miles an hour. That would be a low-speed emergency. We have a little bit more time. We're going to do an altimeter check, make sure, see where we are, see if we have enough time to do some troubleshooting. If we have a high-speed emergency, the parachute is not fully deployed and we are still dropping at about 100 miles an hour. So we only have a few seconds, and considering that you drop 1,000 feet every 4 or 5 seconds, you don't have very long. So if you're deploying at 5,000 feet, in about 15 to 20 seconds, you're hitting the ground. So at that point, if you have a high-speed emergency, you need to make an extremely quick decision calmly. You don't need to panic. So this is why the training really helps. So when you're in a difficult situation, you already have the training and the education and the knowledge to react to that situation calmly without panicking. And if we have a high-speed emergency, what we do is this is our little cutaway pillow, we call it. This cuts away our main parachute. So we're going to pull on that, pull that down, and our main will be completely cut away from us. And then we pull our reserve handle right here. We look down and we pull it, and our reserve will explode off of our back as quickly as possible. As Devinee knows, because she had a cutaway, so she got to experience this. It's something that I have not experienced yet, hopefully not for a while. But a reserve deployment happens, so you have to be ready for it. And before every jump, you want to make sure that your handles are in the right place, that you know where they are, you know where to look for them, and you know which order in which to pull them, because you don't want to pull these in the wrong order. If you pull your reserve first without releasing your main, now you have 2 parachutes entangled with each other, and guess what? You don't have a 3rd parachute. You only have 2. So you have to make sure that you practice your emergency procedures. In skydiving, it's a good idea to have insurance. Health insurance. Accidents can happen. You could possibly have a broken ankle or wrist or something from a bad landing. Life insurance would be a good idea for your family as well, and disability insurance. My life insurance policy has a disability rider included in it that allows me to collect a certain amount if I am a certain amount disabled. So if you don't have any kind of life insurance, it's St. Patrick, because it's very well recommended. So business, what can we do to control risks in business? Well, maintain our equipment, same kind of thing. Obviously, there's no parachutes involved, but all of us have business equipment. Ruben has plenty of tools that he worked with that I'm sure if you didn't maintain those tools, they would become quite dangerous in your line of furniture business. And LHG as well with your landscaping tools. And every business has certain tools that have to be maintained and upgraded over the years.
And we pray over them too.
We pray, exactly, precisely. We pray over them, yeah. Keep training not only yourself, but also your employees. Invest in your employees. Don't be worried that, oh, I'm going to teach them too much and then they're just going to run off somewhere. Those people are assets to your company. And if you're loyal to them, in general, they will be loyal back to you. But it's also just valuing people as well over the risk of them leaving somewhere else. It's valuing and investing in people, training them because you want them to be their best and represent your company the best, and for them to be the best people that they can be in their field, in your field as well. Insurance, business insurance. There's a lot of different types of business insurance. I'm only going to mention a couple of them. E&O insurance is, in our field, really it's required because there's so much risk involved in what we do. E&O insurance is errors and omissions insurance, and what it is it protects you in case of a complaint or some kind of lawsuit of negligence or wrongdoing against people. And I learned last year that how required this was because I tried to save and skipped out on it for several years. I was a small business owner and I thought wrong, but I thought that because I was doing everything and I know that, that I'm not going to do anything wrong in my business, then I'm protected. But you still need errors and omissions insurance if you're dealing with the general public, because someone can file a false claim, a warrantless claim. They can file a suit against you for wrongdoing. We have a suit pending right now against our company it's a discrimination claim, and it's completely false. And the person who's doing it has multiple lawsuits against multiple property managers. So for them, it's kind of like a retirement, So, and I've spoken with those other property managers, and it's all, every single one of those suits is completely false. But in Florida, you may not have known this, but if you have a lawsuit against you, you are required to retain an attorney. You cannot represent yourself as a corporation in court. And therefore, to retain an attorney, you need to pay them. And it costs a lot of money to retain an attorney. It usually starts off with, about 5 figures and up. So, it's very expensive. But if you have errors and omissions insurance, that company, in most cases, it should cover that situation if it's a false claim or anything like that. Liability insurance as well. Most businesses have liability insurance, just general liability, slips and falls, just very, very general stuff, and that's pretty standard. If you don't have that, get it. And workman's comp, of course. If you employ a certain amount of employees, your company's a certain size, you're required to have workman's comp insurance. And another way that we can control risks is by spreading the risk. So we talked about this in Ecclesiastes. Spreading the risk is good. So if you have a way of spreading your risk among different avenues of business, then you can do that. There's multiple ways you can do that. And then using qualified people to help you. So an accounting professional. Use an accountant who knows what they're doing when they're filing your taxes. You don't want to just file and get the biggest return, and then 3 years later the IRS sends you a nasty letter. It's not worth it. Not worth it to deal with the IRS. You don't want to do that. And also just keeping your books straight, keeping them reconciled on a regular basis. An accounting professional can help you with that. So Migdala, that's exactly what she does at Mikasa Financial. And using a legal professional, an attorney, or different attorneys. We have, in our profession, we actually have multiple different attorneys that we deal with regularly for different things, different avenues of the business. With management, we have attorneys for leases, we have attorneys for eviction, and on the realtor side, we have attorneys that help with title work and other things like that. So build your team of qualified professionals, because you can't do everything, and you need to delegate, and when you delegate certain tasks, you need to delegate them to competent professionals who know what they're doing, because it will help you in the long run. And you should be developing this culture of risk management in your company, no matter what size of your company, but especially if you have employees. You need to just be developing techniques to teach your employees how to manage risks that you encounter on a daily basis. Our employees are well versed in fair housing laws and how to speak to people on the phone, because there are people out there who will call in and ask questions that we have to answer specific ways, and if we don't answer them in specific ways, it can actually result in discrimination complaints. So we have to be very careful, and our employees constantly know when they're out doing inspections or meeting people, they're always thinking about the risks and managing risks, whether it's related to property or something else. In skydiving, obviously, when we're new, there's a lot more risks because we don't have the experience. So we rely on instructors around us, and they just have this incredible culture of risk management. They're constantly risk aware, and the place that I go in Plant City, they are very friendly and it's very relaxed. But underneath that is a culture of risk management. Constantly they're looking out for each other, checking equipment, making sure parachutes are packed precisely exactly how they're supposed to be. Our reserves have to be repacked every 6 months, even if they haven't been used. So they have all these procedures that they're constantly being aware of. And this is true in the workplace. New people, especially new employees that are coming in, they don't know all of your ins and outs of your business, your policies and procedures. So if you have that culture amongst all your employees, then they will learn good techniques and pick up those norms from your other people. So what is the culture of your workplace? Are you aware of your risks? Are your employees on the same page? Are they aware of your risks and the risks involved? Do your people and do you care about protecting your business? Well, if you don't foster that culture of risk management, you can start now. And you can step out in faith. Hebrews 11:1 tells us, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And if you do have fear, if you do have fear of the unknown and fear of those risks as you start identifying them, you can help get over it. Don't be afraid of failure. Expect failure and overcome it. In skydiving, there are failures constantly. I mean, the ultimate failure is one that no one wants to have in skydiving. There's not much room for error as far as skydiving goes. If you do have failures like a parachute canopy failure or equipment failure, but you expect them and you overcome them. So you plan for them ahead of time. And you have those procedures in place, so if you do have a failure, you can overcome it. And the same with our businesses. We are aware of failures. I could go on all of these appointments and not get and not get a single contract signed up? What if I drive out with my equipment and someone just steals it? Or what if it breaks down? Well, if you think about these, identify these risks ahead of time, and you can pre-plan for those failures, then you can plan to overcome them. Don't be afraid of success either. Just if business comes, don't be overwhelmed. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Just enjoy the success that is coming your way. If you are overwhelmed by success, you have a good problem on your hands, because better to be overwhelmed by success than by failure. And don't allow others to inspire self-doubt. Make sure the people around you are building you up, are lifting you up. And the same applies to you. Make sure that you are speaking life into other people around you. And of course, calculate risks. Calculate your risks. And we can do that by the 3-step process. Identify, avoid, and control. And this was me yesterday. Hey, safe landing. Thank you guys.